Watch my life pass me by, never knowing where I belong, in a web of love and lies, as you string me along. And I can't breathe, I can't see, I'm losing sight of everything. I feel the walls closing in, and we're falling apart. Oh, I just wanna be free, I just wanna be free. Think I'm falling apart. Oh, I just wanna be free, free. Watch my life pass me by, never knowing where I belong, in a web of love and lies, as you string me along. And I can't breathe, I can't see, I'm losing sight of everything. I feel the walls closing in, closing in. I feel I'm falling apart. I feel I'm falling apart.
Intensely sends it to the outside. He can't get there. Kevin King is going to win the Barbizzel FTF Cup Series.
Into the lead. Bud gets wrecked in front of the pack. He saves it. 3-4 wide as they come to the white flag.
Here comes Vargas down on the apron. They are 5 wide. Ian Plash will win it at the line. Is this package? Oh, there goes Jordan Lopez Jr. That's your race leader. Caution flag is out.
Still no one willing to give up, as they're going to be dead even off of the first chicane.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas. Oh, get your front there.
He's got it. He's got it. Get there. No.
Canvas is in.
Of all the tracks that have earned a reputation for causing chaos, Mosport must be at the top of the list. Twisty and fast, it provides few good places for multi-class traffic to interact. And with 4 classes racing at once, it's gonna get busy. Let's see who starts the new year with a win as we get ready to watch round 7 of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on FTF.gg. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is IMSA driver Michael Johnson. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson. Michael, this is going to be a fascinating one with the high speeds and honestly very wide swath between the times of the classes.
Yeah, the closing speeds here are absolutely insane. It's crazy. I actually hopped on as a ghost driver during the GT3 and the LMP2 while I was in one of the Acuras. And if I weren't able to drive through the other cars, it would have just I would have driven through the other cars. It's crazy. But you're right. I love this track. It's so much fun. There's actually video of me in a qualifying session doing a 360 going through turn 2. So coming down the hill, I did a beautiful 360, wonderful pirouette, and then just kept driving right on. This place is crazy. 10 turns, it feels like 100. There's always something going on. These are beautiful, long, sweeping corners, but except for turn 5. Turn 5 makes you stop and think about what's going on and really get that beautiful launch up the Mario Andretti straightaway. Into the S's is absolutely bonkers. Just a couple of beautiful sweeping turns, slowing down, slowing down, slowing down. About 2.5 miles of just Canadian fun.
Absolutely. And like I said in the intro, it's known for being a little bit chaotic here in this series, which looks like they are already gridding up. So let's go through our starting order for today's race. With the GTPs, it is Shane Larson who starts on the pole position, with Paul Gibson starting in P2. Dominic Dornenberg will be third, and Paul Darling starts fourth. And it's Nathan Dowd in P5, with Max Muir starting in 6. He will have a penalty to serve, from what I understand, though. Josh Wolf will be starting P7, and Billy Smith in 8. Then it's Nick Johnston in P9. And Zach Michaelis in 10th. Eddie Layton starts 11th today, with Kevin Binkley in 12th. And we will not see Patrick Fogel, we think, out there if you do see him on this list. But we've got the LMP2s as well here, Michael.
Yeah, small LMP2 field leading that pack is Jeffrey Ooms. Alongside him, Carter Kundinger, Robert Cast, Chris Peitz on the next row. Mo Islam and Vance Bow finish out that field.
Then you've got Ross Booth starting on the pole for the GTDs. Bradley Haley starts next to him. We'll see if he can return to his winning ways. Or can Young Park keep up his top 3 finishes? He's had every single round so far. He'll start from third. On the pole for the AMs in the GTD, it'll be Ed Eisenring, but 4th overall in that group. Then it is 5th for Paul Schmudlak. You've got 6th for Michael Ross. 7th will be Franco Margarella, who's also starting from 2nd in the AMs. 3rd in the AMs will be Paul Slavonic. He'll be 8th overall. Eric Starapoli starts in 9th. Then it is Michael Marlowe in P10. After that, you've got Adam Satterfield starting 11th, Ryan Robertson in 12th, and Sheldon Rosenbaum in 13th. David Shutt starts P14 today. Then to the next row, it'll be Dale Green starting 15th, and Austin Diltz on his outside in 16th. Morgan Smith starts in 17th. Then you've got William Brennan, P18. The 19th position goes to Mark Kodrowski, Shane Hunter, 20th, Sean Reese, 21st, and Chris Sherburne, the last of our 40-car field here today. Not the biggest we've seen all season, but plenty big for a track like this, as we're just waiting for the pace car to take off at this stage, seeing how quickly they can get this underway and getting ready to go. It's going to be decent conditions out there, Michael, at about 71 Fahrenheit, so hopefully it should be decently grippy.
Yeah, I think they're going to have some good grip. Track is right at 71. The air is 64. Lots of cool air running into the front of these cars to cool those motors off. And the temperature is just right to keep these tires a little less slippery than they can be. But we're coming around the last bit of the S is about ready to watch this start.
GTP's up first, being led by Shane Larson from the pole. Green flag is out. He gets a pretty good jump. He's going to be single file into the first corner. Behind him, battle for third between Dornenberg and Darling, but it looks like they're going to get away with it. Not seeing any incidents. Let's go back to the LMP2s.
LMP2s, looks like Jeffrey Ooms is taking off at the start, has a good lead down at turn 1 side by side with looks like Carter Cunningham and Robert Cass going through turn 1, trying to get into a single file, a little bit wide in the back there, too wide, trying to go into turn 2. It gets pretty crazy.
And back to the GTDs. Ross Booth gets a good jump over Bradley Haley to take the lead over the crest into Clayton Corner. Oh, but a spin from Bradley Haley almost immediately. He is off into the grass. He keeps it from going very far. Oh, but he gets hit as he tries to return to the circuit. And this causes a big problem as multiple cars pile in.
Ooh, that is just rough. And honestly, it is par for the course for this track. So par for the course, meaning this course. It is so difficult, especially on cold tires, to get a nice grip on that start. You've really got to have a good tire warming setup when you get out there and get those tires up to temperature. If not, that's exactly what you see.
Zach Michaelis also had a massive accident, so he's taken a tow into pit lane at the end of lap 1, but he didn't take anybody else out with him, thankfully. Already completed lap 1, and you can see the GTPs with Larson leading the way down through 4 and into Moss Corner, but Ooms also is leading down in those LMP2s, trying to run away from Carter Kundinger. There you see him on screen now.
Yeah, Jeffrey Ooms has a decent lead, about 3/4, not quite a second, about 9/10 almost, as he runs through this beautiful section of track, comes up to that hard braking zone into turn 5. This is really difficult, keeping that nose down, and when you put the power down right there, you've got to make sure not to let that rear end get wiggly, because you will lose so much speed trying to come up the hill, and with Carter Kundinger that close behind you, he's going to get in the draft and catch you. So good job on all 3 of those cars we see in the screen right there, putting the power down beautifully coming out of turn 5 with still relatively chilly tires.
Well, before they catch the tail end of those GTDs, why don't we take a look at the replay from the start? I mean, what do you think? At the time, I didn't think this was a bad rejoin, but what do you think, Michael?
Well, watching him come back on, he is holding right, and he's still trying to stick out there, and it looks like the car that came around was just trying to go side by side with another, maybe got a little bit slippery through there. I don't know that's anything that you can really put blame on any of the drivers. Everybody was trying to do the right thing. But, that's up to the stewards. We'll see what they say. And there's one that, well, that was all him. It looks like could have been maybe his wheel died, because he seemed to go straight off into the wall.
I think he got a little loose, is what it was. It just snapped from what I could tell on there. And that was Michaelis there on that second replay, who wound up off the track. Oh, but we've got a battle back with Nicholas Johnson, who gets sent into the wall. You can see him here in this bright yellow machine. I'm trying to see who it was that he had the contact with, and I think it was Billy Smith.
Yeah, I was trying to catch that myself. It was either Smith, it could have been Binkley right there towards the end, but it's hard to say. There's so much activity on this track. Let's take a look at this replay, though. As he comes around the corner, he got right up the inside, but it looks like he just had a little bit too much wheel input as he was trying to stay out of that other car. So good on him for not running into the other car, but oop, there we go, coming around again. Looks like he may have some rear end damage on that car.
Oh, man, just having a bad day now. And I can confirm that was Billy Smith that had that slight little contact with him coming through the S's in the end. Coming down the hill through turn 4 here. We come back to the LMP2s with Jeffrey Ooms exiting off the hairpin, back up the Andretti straight. He's doing a pretty good job keeping Carter Kundinger at arm's length. He's got him about a second behind him.
Yeah, he's held a second pretty much since the beginning. He got that opening. It was 3/4 of a second, maybe 8 or 9/10, holding on to that beautiful gap. It is right at a second. I think he's got him exactly where he wants him. So knowing the talent of Jeffrey Ooms, he's probably just pacing himself. Ooh, looks like, I think that's going to be, that's once again Nicholas Johnston having some issues. The rear end of that car is just not playing nice for him today.
And I think he's parked it now, seeing that the car is just a little bit too evil after whatever damage he got from that little hit. But yeah, Jeffrey Ooms in that composite performance car. Oh, my goodness. And now that the GTPs have caught the GTDs, it is getting chaotic.
Yeah, there is a huge gap in lap times here. We were looking at roughly 10 to 12 seconds between the GTPs and the GTDs. So it does not take much time, especially with the gap at the opening. So we've got our classes split, but look at that speed difference. Even going around the outside, it's almost like that GTD is parked. And I can tell you that GTD was not parked. They are absolutely hoofing it through there. But these GTP cars, able to just go sliding right through like it's nothing.
Yep, and we've been riding on board with Maximilian Muir here in the number 69, sitting in 5th. Ahead of him, it's been getting a little bit backed up with Paul Darling and Dornenberg having to try and find their way past some of the traffic as well. In fact, that's helped them catch up to second place Paul Gibson there in the number 31.
Yeah, this is a four-way battle for second place. Paul Gibson was hoping he would have an easy time, but he's about 6 seconds almost off of Shane Larson. Larson is just checked out. He is gone. He's going to hopefully be able to handle the traffic and just stay away from it. But this four-way battle right now with Darling, Durnenberg, Muir, and Gibson at the head of that pack, this is going to be really the battle to watch for a good little bit.
So as they work their way through the last few corners, the more they fight, the more Shane Larson is able to extend his lead. Big wiggle there for Darling coming off the corner. And Josh Wolf has just ended his day in the barrier, it looks like, missing that rear wing. Didn't see what caused it, though.
Yeah, I didn't see what caused that one either. He was coming through there, and, well, without a rear wing, that rear end does not want to hold on.
Let's see if we can find out what caused this to happen. I suspect the wing came off after, and yeah, so just backed it into the wall. Wow, that's the second time we've seen one of the prototypes lose the car coming through the S's and just wind up flying into the tires.
Yeah, through the S's, you've got to have the downforce and you've got to have the grip. And if you just get on the throttle a little bit too soon, it can really catch you. And I noticed when he was going into the S's, he was trying to get around a GTD car. And again, not lollygagging at all. They're going quite quickly, but the speed differential is very difficult to judge, and you want to make sure you give them plenty of room as you're not there to mess up their race. They have a race going on too, so you want to let them race as well.
Well, Darling went from being on the attack of Gibson to the defense of Dornenberg now, as we're looking back at Dominic, who is leading the points currently in those GTPs, but he lost a bunch last time out. He had a disconnect back at Phillip Island, and that has basically halved the gap to Paul Gibson. So he needs to get past Darling here and go chase Paul.
Yeah, Dornenberg has quite the battle ahead of him, though. He's still got about a half a second up to Darling, and Paul Gibson sitting up there a little over a second, almost a second and a half ahead. He's been able to open up this gap a little bit with Darling and Dornenberg, both really cutting into it right now. They are killing their lap times by just the little positional differences they're doing to either show a little bit of aggression or a little bit of defense.
So this continues to be the battle for P3. We've also got a battle, I think, for second over in the LMP2s. Kundinger is being attacked by Cast for that one, as they're getting ready to head up the Andretti straight right now. And they're in the thick of traffic. You can see all the GTD cars also being caught now by the middle class.
That was a little bit of a traffic-induced catch-up there, but notice how that GTD car did exactly the right thing, stayed perfectly on his line. He chose, here I go, and that was predictable, allowing Cast to come in and know where he was going to be. So when he made that outside pass, Kundinger went on the inside, on the entry of the corner, allowed the GTD to take that apex, and then popped right out, and Cast came around the outside. Beautifully done on all parties.
Now, unfortunately, we don't have Alex Caruso here to fight in these LMP2s today. He was, I had it wrong. It wasn't Muir that needed to serve the penalty. It was Caruso. But he came in second in the points, but hasn't arrived today. So he's going to suffer a bit of a loss there, but the drop weeks will help him. Meanwhile, this is the battle for P4. That is Christopher Pies leading Vance Bow.
Yeah, Chris Pye's holding on to this position. He's got Vance Bow only about 0.3, even a little tighter. But as they come up the hill, you're going to see Chris Pites get a little bit of a help from the car in front of him. That's Young Park up in front of him in that GTD. Gets a tiny bit of draft off of him, allowing him to fight the draft that he was catching. And then, oh, nice positioning. Good job I gotta say that was really clever positioning from Vance Bow as he came around that GTD car, made his positioning and his intent very well known, so the GTD driver did not come down onto him.
Oh, Franco Margarella, who was, I think, in second in the GTD AMS, is caught at the side of the road. He's racing in the new Audi that has just arrived last month here on the iRacing service, but he's now having to wait very patiently for a good opening to be able to do a 3-point turn and be on his way. Looks like he's good, although and that shows you how scary it can be, especially considering how fast those GTPs are coming up.
I have been there in that exact position in a touring car, and it is not any less scary in a touring car when you're sitting there, and you just hope the people coming through are paying attention to the flags. There he goes, just a little bit too much, and there might have been a tiny bit of contact at the tail end of that. But when you are facing all these headlights, of course, when you're coming in and you see headlights, that's not fun either. But you see those headlights coming in on you, you just hope they see you through all that smoke.
Yeah. So got loose, car goes around, and yeah, you can tell he definitely got hit by something there. So someone turned him the rest of the way around, and eventually he was able to get on his way. Can we come back to Gibson, Darling, and Dornenberg? That is hotted up once again. In fact, Gibson nearly lost the spot to Darling.
Yeah, they are really trying to work the traffic now. They want this traffic to work to their advantage. You can work the traffic by setting picks as you come through corners, just as we watch right there. If you notice, the leader of that pack, Paul Gibson, Paul and Paul, the Paul and Paul show here, he was able to really go in and steal away that apex, and by popping in there, it allowed a little bit of wiggle off that GTD car, making it a little stressful for Paul Darling trying to follow him. But once again, they are all tied up here, but also notice there is that ability to get under the wing of those GTD cars and just power up the hill.
Should probably keep watching this because it's staying intense. In fact, we might have a pass, might have a three-way fight coming up into the braking for the S's. Who's going to give way on this one? None of them are. All three send it in, but it is Paul Darling who comes out ahead using the pick of the traffic. Unbelievable that they managed to get out of that without anybody wrecking.
I was certain we were going to see wings on the side of the track on that one. Beautiful job. Everybody came in there 3 wide. Unbelievable. And coming up on that GTD car, really nice pick set there by Paul. I think that was exactly what he wanted to do to make that pick work for him.
I cannot believe that worked out. I mean, seeing 2 wide up into the S's is always thrilling. 3 wide, and then on top of it, having to overtake a slower class car. And it still worked out, but worked out the best for Paul Darling, who, wow, he's 12 seconds behind the leader, but at least he has that track position now.
I'm not certain he's too upset about being 12 seconds behind the leader, because this is some great racing. Now, I get wanting to be in Shane Larson's position. You're at the top step of the podium, and you're enjoying life because, well, you've got a 12.5-second gap to the next closest person. But there's the joy of being there and just racing door to door, and that beautiful racing like we just saw. So I am often torn. Some days, yeah, I just want to be out front and nobody around me, or even like a big gap P2 to P3 to P1. That's fine. But other days, you really want to be knocking some paint off some mirrors.
Well, unfortunately, knocking a bit of the paint off, I think, not from the mirror, but other parts of the car. Michael Marlowe had a bit of an accident. I'm not sure what caused it, but the 78 has since taken it into pit lane. We're still not even, well, we might just be about close to the pit window at this stage, perhaps for the GTDs, but certainly not for these GTPs, who will need maybe about 5 more minutes before they are good to go here. Darling continuing to try to run away from Gibson, who's got a good toe, but I don't think enough straightaway here.
Yeah, this is a curvy straightaway. It's the Mario Andretti. It's a long straight that has these beautiful bends to it, and it's uphill. It is grueling to be in that lead car. You have to have your launch out of turn 5, also called Moss. You have to have that launch out of that corner. absolutely perfect because everything's working against you. You've got a draft for the car behind you, and you're going uphill. So the battery power on these GTPs, though, does give them a bit of a boost. So these cars are hybrid power. There is a big, giant battery pack with electric motors on it that helps just claw the way up the hill.
If we should go back to 6th in the GTDs, because Robertson is suddenly under threat from Slavonic. Now, the interesting thing in this is that Slavonic is racing in GTD AM, and Robertson is in the GTD Pro. So they are not fighting for position, at least in the same class. They are in the same type of car. There's no difference here between them. In fact, they're both in Audis. But for Slavonic, he wants to get as many positions up as he can go so that he's, one, closer to Eisenring, who leads his AM class, and also away from Diltz, who's the next car behind.
And we talked about this also at the last race at Phillip Island, where it doesn't matter that it's out of class. You really, really want to make that pass, whether it's in class or out of class. I've seen this in real life as well, where you've got GTD AM and GTD Pro. You want to get around that car. It means something to you to be that extra space up.
See if he's got enough pace here to try and make the overtake. He's going to stick his nose in. No defense here from Robertson until we get to the corner. Now he shuts the door, so he'll hold on to that spot for now. That's Staropoli in behind them in the 993. That's another pro driver. He wants to get by Slavonic because he wants to fight Robertson, who is in his class.
I think what you're going to see here is Staropoli trying to push a little bit, metaphorically push a little bit on Slavonic to get him to get that nose up underneath when they come into a corner. So that's going to give him also the opportunity to make it a twofer, because if he can get Robertson up, Slavonic up in there, it's going to put Robertson in a disadvantaged position where he's going to be able to slide through as well. But no, I think he might be trying to make that pass all by himself right now.
Oh, and into Moss Corner. That's a tough one to get it done. Oh, and he gets the hurry up from behind from an LMP2. Jeffrey Ooms, our leader in that class, who is trying to wait patiently, but he can't sit around forever. He's got Carter Kundinger still trying to catch up to him. Now he finally gets through.
Yeah, Carter is now only about a little over a second, about 1.3 seconds behind him. That traffic did not help Ooms, but Ooms was able to take off pretty far early on in the race. So now he can sit back a little bit, play with the traffic as he needs to, but that really did slow him down. Hopefully he did not get any front end damage, because the downforce that you get on the front end of these cars, these LMP2s, is immense. You need that, especially in these crazy long sweepers, and he's a little bit wide there. He still makes it. I don't think he got too much grass, but looks pretty good, still trying to work his way through these corners and stay out of trouble with this traffic.
Yeah, and great job by Staropoli and all that as well, being able to use that and get a bump and still be able to finish the pass. For those wondering about the lead in the GTPs, Larson seems to have been held up himself at some point, but it's, Michael, it's gone from a 12-second gap to a nail-biting 10 seconds.
I know that, you lose 2 seconds like that, you're definitely doing something wrong. No, I think he did exactly what he wanted to do. Put a big gap there, let everyone else start battling, and then just kind of sit back and enjoy the race. I had a race at this track earlier this evening in the Formula Fords, and the exact same thing happened. I put out a huge gap right at the beginning of the race, let P2 and P3 just sit there and battle. I'm like, good, you guys wear your tires out, I'm going to sit up here. And the last couple of laps, I was like a second off pace because it didn't really matter anymore.
Oof, well, this is going to cause a few drivers to be a little bit off pace, 3 wide along the front stretch. Dornenberg trying to make his way past some of the LMP2s, and he goes 3 wide briefly. They're going to get away with it, but just barely. That was Vance Bow that he knocked into the side of.
That was not only 3 wide, it was 3 different classes of cars coming through there. So we've got GTP, we've got LMP2 and GTD alongside there as he tries to squeeze right up through the middle. A little bit of contact, but you see the speed difference there. That electric motor really puts in a lot of extra power, allows that GTP car to just claw its way through the traffic.
And that, honestly, I imagine, Michael, was a very good example of the push and pull inside of a driver's head. They're trying to catch someone. Muir did a similarly dangerous move in there, going 3 wide, because he wanted to get up to Dornenberg. Dornenberg trying to get away from them. So, yes, they want to keep the car safe and get to the finish, but they can't just sit around.
You can't just sit around. You have to make these calculated risks. Do I know the person in that out-of-class car? Do I trust what they're going to do? And sometimes you just have to sit back and wait and take the battle that's coming to you. But other times, if you know that person, you trust them, you'll make that dive, and it usually works out for you as long as you know them well enough.
I think that was going by some of the drivers fighting between Robertson, Staropoli, Slavonic, those that they got past there. So some heated battles that they were involved in, no doubt. Back to Gibson and Darling for P2 in the GTPs. Darling still ahead of Gibson, but the pair of Pauls have found one another once again, and Gibson wants that spot back.
Indeed he does. There's only about a quarter second there, and now we've got this GTD traffic staying out of the way, beautifully timed. I think the leading Paul in that case, Darling, could have tried to slow down a little bit and set a pick, but honestly, it's not the right thing for him to do there. He just needs to focus forward and put down just some blazing, good, solid, clean, and consistent laps.
All right, it looks like we're starting to get well within the pit window now. We usually don't see drivers pit yet, though. Expect probably at the half hour mark or farther before we expect anybody to likely come on in. Checking back in on Slavonic here. He is chasing on Robertson, who is still on top of Staropoli. Although I think, did we see Eric make that pass?
I must have missed it. I don't think I saw that. No, I was trying to see if that came through. I think Staropoli was able to get around. I think he just did, yeah. It's only about a half a second there, so that tells me it was a fairly recent pass.
Oh, sorry, we got to go back to Darling. He's off course and he's in the wall. He was getting overtaken by Paul Gibson. They had lap traffic in front of them. Darling made a little bit of contact, car spun out, and now his race is over.
Yeah, he lost that rear wing in that contact. That was not a good place for him to be. Just, you get caught up in bad positioning. So Paul Darling is, I think, going to stay out of the race right there. Gets into the tail. So there was contact there between him and Gibson. Gibson just had to check up because of the out-of-class car right there. And also, I may have been coming in a little bit hot at that point. It's hard to say.
Well, he was making the pass, and he did a fantastic job going around the outside. That car was Robert Cast, who's third in the LMP2s, who also, I think, got a little bit of the contact on top of things, but did an amazing job saving the car and is carrying on now. Hopefully he doesn't have any damage out of it at this stage, though.
Yeah, I think he's doing okay, but it looks like the beginning of our pit rotation. That's going to be...
that's Gibson.
Looks like Gibson trying to come in right now. I think that's a good opportunity for him to go ahead and just take a breather right after an incident like that. Great idea to come in, take a breather, and just get the car back and get back into your groove.
I was looking over the car, and I did not see any major damage that is visibly apparent. I don't know if he got some and he felt the car was slow or just handling strange, but yeah, this is not common that you see someone pit at this stage, especially in the GTPs. So I don't know if it was elicited by the contact or if, like you said, he just figured might as well come in and get out of some of the fray as he takes his tires and fuel and carries on. In the meantime, this is, I believe, Shane Larson, our leader, and the GTPs now up to 18 seconds because of that pit stop from Gibson.
Yeah, Dornenberg was trying to be part of that fight for second place, but that kind of got broken up by traffic and then the spin from the other Paul. So now that puts Dornenberg in second place right now. We'll see how that works out after the pit rotations go through. You've got about 45 or so seconds from cone to cone. So the pit entry to pit exit. and maybe another half a second, 3/4 of a second for the slowing down and the speeding up into that pit lane.
So we're not even at the halfway point. Attrition has already claimed Michaelis, Kudrowski, Haley, Schutt, Nick Johnson, Josh Wolf, and Paul Darling. So a number of cars are not going to see the checkered flag here today. And if this rate keeps up, I mean, we might only have about 25 cars left.
It's a track that really does lend itself to attrition. It looks deceptively simple, I guess. It's one like Daytona. There are not that many corners there. And you feel like, oh, well, it's an easy track. It is not. You've got off camber. You've got beautifully long sweepers that tighten up as they go back in the other direction. As we're watching right there, these guys going through turn one, and the final corner, and then up into turn one, and it just kind of opens up then when you start going down the hill. Now, the real life track, if you notice here when they pop down here, the real life track has runoff right there where all that grass is on the right side. You don't want to go out there in iRacing because it is grass and it will let you make an extra little trip into the wall.
See Nathan Dowd in pit lane, and it looks like also Chris Sherburne and William Brennan have pitted. So a few other drivers coming in, two of those being from the GTD category. Maybe just trying to pull something different out of the hat there, or just get out of some of the lap traffic that they're experiencing. We've been watching Jeffrey Ooms on the screen. This is the number 19 leading the race. And you may have noticed that the composite cars have a slightly different paint scheme. They've adorned the maple leaf in honor of the Canadian race.
Yep, up here at the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, usually colloquially called Mosport. That if you say Mosport, everybody knows what you're talking about. I don't think anybody actually says Canadian Tire Motorsports Park unless it's in official communications from that track.
I mean, it's just like Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta or whatever it's called now. It's Road Atlanta.
It's just Road Atlanta. I'm never saying that. It's Road Atlanta.
It's same. unless I have sponsor requirements, yeah, it's Road Atlanta to me. But coming here, really slicing through the field. I think we're seeing why Jeffrey Ooms is our leader. He has been so decisive in this traffic. I might regret saying this. We haven't seen him put a foot wrong since we've turned the cameras onto him here.
Well, you know, the commentator's curse can strike, but, you know, Jeffrey is one of those guys. I am watching him. I've been watching him before our camera hopped on there, and I noticed just how patient he's being. Patience, sounds weird, is exactly what a race car driver needs. If you are impatient, you will have issues. You will miss your apexes. You will misjudge things far too quickly, far too easily. But look at that, just beautifully done, slicing through the lap traffic and able to turn yet another blazing lap.
Yeah, last time through for Ooms, a 1:08.4. His quickest was his second lap, a 1:06.8. That was before they came upon the traffic, so wouldn't expect him to really be able to match that unless he gets kind of miraculously clean a racetrack around here. And you can see how much he's having to alternate his line from the usual racing line to try and find his way around these slower class cars. And on top of it, eventually he's going to get caught again by those GTPs trying to lap him, which will also play a factor in this one. Although they're only about 4 seconds, 3 to 4 seconds difference between the LMP2s and GTPs.
The difference there is there is a good bit of difference, and it's interesting to watch these guys race. But those LMP2s are not slow by any stretch of the imagination, and I think some of the GTP drivers coming up to them might get a little frustrated because I think I was finding when I was doing some ghost laps, the GTPs and the LMP2s seem to have a tiny bit of advantage in turn 5 in that slow speed corner. Of course, the power of those GTPs heading back up the hill kind of negates it, actually completely negates it, as we watch someone else popping into the pit lane there. I think that was going to say Austin Ditz. Oh, and we have an incident.
Oh, and a pretty big incident. That looks like the exit of turn 2, I think.
It's Billy Smith and Michael Ross, I believe. Yeah, Billy Smith there. Ooh, that's not good for Billy.
Yeah, and he takes a tow. So clearly it was too much damage for him to carry on. This one was on the way into the corner if we managed to find a replay of it. And it was Michael Ross who he wound up making the contact with. Tries to go to the inside. Oh, it looked like there's a bump to the inside that I think the car got, and it just got unsettled.
Yeah, I think he may have caught some of that inside curbing. There's a bit of grass in there. So there's a little notch out in the track as you come through. Just watch him come up into there. I think it could have been a little bit of wing wash, quite honestly. It looked like it just suddenly snapped on him where he was coming up behind that GTD car.
The new damage model gets shown off in a way that I don't think he would have wanted to. Oh, Dominic Dornenberg pits from second place. Now, this is going to be important. Remember, he was fighting with Paul Gibson earlier. Gibson's already stopped, and he's actually been running directly ahead of our overall leader since his pit stop. So we'll see where the two of them emerge in relation to one another. Dominic is just now exiting pit lane. Gibson goes by, but just barely. Larry is right there.
Yeah, very, very close. Good timing for Gibson to just try to stay ahead of Dornenberg. Dornenberg still about a second behind him. Binkley in front of them. Binkley is actually in P4, but effectively you've got Paul Gibson right behind him who has already pit. Kevin Binkley has not pit yet.
Yeah, it's a very strange situation here where these two that have pit are now split by the leader that they're trying to chase, but are probably well far behind by the time he takes his pit stop. But the timing just worked out. They're going to go by a little bit more of this lap traffic. Binkley in front of them is within their own class, interestingly, and they're trying to lap him. Both Gibson. Actually, no, Gibson is going to pass Binkley for position, and Binkley's going to make it easy, actually. He's going to pit in this time. So is Larson.
Yeah, Larson makes that dive into pit lane. Binkley follows right behind him. Now as they just trundle down pit lane with the pit speed limiter on, popping up over there, taking on fuel and tires, it looks like, for both cars, I'm going to guess.
I believe the timing of it, since they are allowed to do both tires and fuel at the same time now per IMSA rules, I believe that it's a no-brainer that you might as well just take the tires, unless, I guess, you're having trouble getting them heated up. But doesn't seem like that's an issue today, especially a track like this with so many fast-flowing corners.
Those fast-flowing corners do help, but the track has cooled off. It is down to 69 degrees, so it is definitely getting a little bit chillier out there. I would probably try to give a toss to the dice to see, is it going to be a good idea? Timing-wise, doesn't matter, but do you want those hot tires as soon as you get out there? Honestly, in Shane Larson's place, he's got such a huge lead. Go ahead and take the tires. Go ahead and warm them up. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I imagine it's kind of a no-brainer for him. So Muir is now our leader. And I can't remember if... I did mention it was... Muir does not have a penalty, like I mistakenly said earlier. So he's good to go. It was last round that he served that. Let's see if he pits in this time, though. And no, he's going to stay out. Larson emerged in second place, so Gibson behind him by about 16 seconds at this stage. This is Gibson on screen. Dornenberg, now that he doesn't have Larson separating them, is already rocked up to the gearbox of Paul.
Indeed he has, but we were talking about the big gap we saw earlier from our effective leader, Shane Larson. Currently, Max Muir is right up front, but has yet to pit. Ross Booth also has quite a gap. Right now, he is sitting as the leader in GTD. The gap behind him, well, we've talked about that size gap before, 10 seconds. Ross Booth has 10 seconds over Young Park in P2.
A bit surprising, though, because Young Park has usually been pretty competitive compared to Ross. But Ross definitely needs to make things up a little bit, because last race he finally had a poor result with 8th place finish after he had been matching his teammate or his rival, Young Park. Both of them had finished every race on the podium up to that point.
And good timing right there as our Dornenberg and Gibson battle goes right by Ross Booth. Ross doing exactly what he needed to do, being very predictable as those two went around him. Meanwhile, Dornenberg and Gibson are really going at this hammer and tongs. I think we're going to get some excitement out of these two coming up here shortly. It's only about a quarter second between them.
Remember, this is for second out there, unless Muir just had a phenomenal stint before his pit stop plays out, which I didn't see him go in yet, so we're still waiting on him to come around yet another time. And he's got a little bit more fuel in it based on the window that we are aware of. Dornenberg is laying it on. Gibson's not been able to shake him.
Gibson was able to really put some control on it earlier in the race, but I think what's happened here, Dornenberg has gotten into a nice groove. Look at how he closes that up under braking. He had a really good opportunity given to him there as he went around that GTD car of Michael Ross. He was able to close this gap up. He is really pushing hard. I think we have an opportunity here as we go through Moss. Turn 5, A, B, and C. Puts the hammer down. Let's see if he can just tuck right up under the wing and close this up. Now, as we go up into turn 8 through the sweeper up there, that becomes kind of interesting. There are two solid lines in there. You can take that wide line on the outside, or you can take that defensive line on the inside. Either one works very well. He just cannot quite close that up as he comes into the corner.
He's staying mighty close to the back of that Acura, though. And as they swing out of White's turn, Max Muir is now exiting pit lane. This is actually going to be pretty close between them. He might be ahead. Was all their fighting a little bit too much? They're going to be side by side coming into Clayton Corner. He's in the midst of the battle now, and he's going to get overtaken by both cars. They squeak through.
I think that might be part of the idea of taking those tires. You get cold tires, you have to heat them up. That may have messed him up there. I bet if he came out on hot tires, he would have been able to hold on to that position because he wouldn't have that little bit of wheel spin. But look at him as he closes up here. This is a three-way battle for that second position. These guys are going to go at it coming up the hill. But once again, just a little bit of a loss from Max Muir coming off of turn 5, trying to come out of there. The other two are able to pull away from him as we get a little looky-loo, but nope, traffic's in the way, can't quite make it. Dornenberg is going to have to wait yet another round to be able to make that pass stick.
Oh my goodness, and they all three sneak by Marlowe there through the S's, but he did a great job leaving them space right up underneath Paul Gibson, but turn 1 is way too fast for a pass for Dominic Dornenberg. He has to back off a little bit. Now it swings back into Clayton as they all come up over the crest and down the hill, compressing at the bottom. Nothing separates these three, all battling for P2, but who is going to come out ahead?
This is a really interesting little bit right here. As you come through this corner, you want to upshift a tiny bit early in these Acuras to get the car stable up through there, and then heavy on the brakes. I liked coming out of this corner in second gear, and I think our leader of the pack there, Paul Gibson, was using second gear. I would bet Dornenberg probably tried to drop it to first for 2 points. One, to give a little bit of a backup to Mir, but second, to try to give himself a bit of a launch coming up there. But Mir, looking at that outside opportunity, doesn't quite have the oomph to get around him. Maybe next time he's trying to give Dornenberg a little bit of a taste of his own medicine.
Couldn't quite get there, though. But yeah, I'd say that Max is starting to put the pressure on to Dominic. He's going to have to start looking backwards instead of forwards a little bit here as they come up to more traffic. This is Sheldon Rosenbaum. Great heads up from the Ferrari driver. He saw all three of them coming and left space on the exit.
Yeah, this traffic is going to be a thing again. Here we coming up onto one of the GTD cars. Max able to get around just in time, so no problem. That was Adam Satterfield, one of the AM drivers, just placing the car where he needed to be, being absolutely predictable. So once again, here we are coming up that long uphill, but a couple of GTD cars. The timing of this is going to get interesting.
Yeah, this is the battle for fourth right here, and they want to take the racing line. One is able to, one is not, but switching back to the inside there, Ryan Robertson sees a train of fierce-looking GTPs wanting to fight their way past him. They all get through without incident. In fact, looks like Robertson and Slonic both pitted. So did Staropoli. Wow.
Wow, that's a difficult pit entry right there. Coming through there with the traffic around him, and then having the very first pit stall you come to as soon as you cross that cone. Interesting positioning. It might work out for him though, because he can just kind of slide up into that spot and then roll on down the way.
And this Porsche you see on screen is Ross Booth, who should be our effective leader after the pit stops. But worth noting that ahead of him right now is Ed Eisenring, our lead AM driver and overall GTD lead currently.
Yeah, Ed having a good time. I think he's going to run that to the last thimbleful of fuel that he can, because, you know, being in the lead of the pack of your class, whether it's AM or pro, it's a nice place to be. So I'm certain Ed is having a good time sitting out there.
And you don't get any bonus points for leading a lap. You do get bonus for pole, fastest lap, and having 0 incidents. But I'm sure just the ego boost of being able to say I led the race for about a lap is going to be worth it for him, as he will pit in, and Booth will now take that lead over from Ed Eisenring. But Ed has been battling not really battling, but at least trying to hold on to the lead in that AM category. He'll, I think, hand it over no, he won't. Adam Satterfield, who is going to go by him, has pitted in too.
Yeah, Satterfield came in right behind him. The next one back is going to be Franco Margarella. Franco is, looks like trying to go through the last corner, but here we are back at this GTP race. We've got the heavy trio hitting it again, coming up that backstretch. Once again, GTD cars just trying to set them as their pick to try to make a pass, but these three are leaving nothing.
And that was a big bobble from Gibson. He catches it, but it allows the likes of Dornenberg to go side by side, and he's going to edge him out. He almost goes off the track. Muir spies his opportunity. The lone Cadillac in this three-way battle is going to get both of them.
Muir was able to capitalize on that mistake and get right by. Sometimes sitting in the catbird seat works to your advantage. Now that Cadillac trying to get the power down and stay out in front of these two. He has been behind them for several laps now. He's got fresher tires. He's probably about the same point in fuel. Now coming up once again on that out of class traffic in the GTDs. Try to slip through there, brakes heavy down into turn 5, brings the nose of that car around, puts the power down, and comes out trying to shoot up that back straight. Looks like he's got a pretty good handle on it though.
Yeah, he's clear. He's not completely out of the woods, but he's not under threat this time up the road. That was an amazing catch from Gibson, although I'm sure he's not as focused on that as he is on the fact that he lost 2 spots from that mistake that kicked this whole thing off. You mentioned patience earlier. Muir showed it in spades. He waited so long for an opportunity. As soon as it happened, boy, did he pounce.
Yeah, he had a great opportunity there. He just sat back, he watched. He saw they were really going at it hard. He knew something was going to happen, and he just sits back and waits. And when it presents itself, you've got to be ready. This is something I see a lot of times where people are waiting for something to happen and they let the gap open up too much. I've done it myself. That gap opens up, somebody gets wiggly. If you're right up there in the right position, you can just slide right by them. It wasn't necessary here. He was staying close enough. They were only about 3-4 tenths off of each other or so, but able to just open up or take advantage of that. And now he seems to be opening up just a little bit of a gap. Look at that. There is even a GTD car in between them. He has opened this up quite a bit. It's over a second, about 1.1 seconds back to Dornenberg from Muir, and then Gibson yet another 4 tenths behind him.
Yeah, starting to look like Max was honestly a little bit held up, if anything. It looks like we got a replay of what started that whole switch around. Let's watch from on board with Gibson. This is scary stuff. How many times have we seen cars in this race? Oh, look at that snap at one of the fastest parts.
Yeah, that's a scary place. He had gotten a little bit too deep into the corner, just missed it, and now he gets out onto the latest part, the most outside part of that runoff area, and was just not able to get his power down, which allowed both cars to get around him.
And unfortunately, I think he just had contact with Marlowe, who had returned to the track and finds himself now off into the barrier. I'm not sure if there was actual contact, but it was very close. But the 78 had a massive thunk into the concrete exiting Clayton Corner. Looks like we've got this one spooled up as well.
Yeah, taking a look here, goes a bit around the outside. Looks like the GTD car was just doing what he was supposed to do. following that line, and maybe a little bit of impatience caused him to go out onto the grass, just gets too far out there, and now the car's not in great control. I also think there may have been a little bit of the net code going on there. I didn't see contact, but sometimes the service does the best it can in figuring out what would have happened. So you end up on the grass. That's a decent call.
This looks like I think our leader in the AM category. Yes, Ed Eisenring, leading up there in fifth out of the entirety of the GTDs. And he's got Adam Satterfield behind by about 5 seconds or so. So he's sitting comfortably. Also, I just noticed that Carter Kundinger is being caught by Jeffrey Ooms. Actually, when did Kundinger get ahead of Ooms in the LMP2s?
I think there was a traffic situation that really caught Ooms out. There was a lot of carnage happening, and just he got caught out a little bit, which allowed that huge gap of several seconds to just get eaten up. Now Kundinger trying to hold on to it, and he's got Ooms all over his tail, but I think we're going to watch a similar situation that we just saw in the GTP category, where he's going to sit back, wait for Carter Kundinger to make a mistake. This is a good opportunity for it right here coming up into 5. They don't want to get too far out, but watch this as they put the power down coming out of turn 5. We can watch what happens as Kundinger tries to get under the wing of that GTD car, get himself a little bit of a draft heading up the hill, and hoping that his opponent doesn't get the same kind of draft from him.
Ooms got a little bit, but it's not a long enough straightaway up Andretti, and he'll have to sit patiently behind. Carter sits third in the points, but he's behind by 30 points on Jeffrey Ooms. He has just been indomitable this season. And in fact, checking to see on his results here, yeah, he had his worst results of the season last time out with an 11th. Before that, it was all on the podium for Jeffrey Ooms. But even that loss of points last round has not hurt him as much as you would think. Big look up the inside for Jeffrey Ooms. He wanted that lead badly, but there just wasn't space.
Yeah, once again, patience. He saw an opportunity. He tested that opportunity. I think if he finds it again on the next lap, there is a good chance he's going to take it. Now, Kundinger gets a little bit held up by that GTD car coming off the corner. That is a great opportunity for Ooms as he comes around that same GTD car on just absolute full steam. Is he going to be able to take yet another little bit of draft from the other GTD and work his way into turn 8? I don't think he quite has enough. I think what we're looking at here is a difference in downforce. I think Carter's car is a little bit trimmed, not quite the same amount of downforce. You see how he's sort of sliding through there, but when you watch Ooms, he's absolutely planted perfectly. So that's why we saw that little looky-loo that we saw that last lap. Now watch again, coming through turn 1, he closes that gap up. Now coming around this long sweeping turn 2, here comes that opportunity again. Is he going to get that nose up under there? It looks a lot more planted as they come into there. Good power down as they come out of the corner. This is his opportunity if he can get that nose in there. Good job. But looks like Kundinger says, nope, not this time. I'm not making that same mistake again that allowed you to get up in there.
There's only 11 minutes left in this race, so Ooms doesn't have a lot of time. Granted, it is going to be a fair number of laps, probably about 9 laps or so that they'll have left in this event. But, I mean, it's going to disappear quickly, and he's going to have to get a lot closer. He lost a lot out of the exit of Moss that time.
Yeah, these laps do go by quickly. Doesn't matter which car you're in. The track is fairly short, and everything just comes at you solid. You have no chance for a break, not even coming up the hill. But now a little bit of traffic issues. Ooms able to manage that once again fairly well. Looks like he backed off just a tiny bit to allow himself an opportunity. Carter Kundinger gets caught up with the GTD car, and look at that. Ooms right back on his tail in that same position. Now looking for another pick from another GTD car. Ooh, he's ready to start pushing him through there.
Almost made contact. They may have actually touched one another briefly, but they'll get away with it. And Carter and Jeffrey have raced in this series plenty. They've got a lot of experience in Autobahn, which has its own idiosyncrasies, and it tends to be very frantic racing. So they kind of know the deal, and they know each other. You can see they are actually teammates out there on sister teams, but that doesn't mean they're going to play nice. They are going to still push each other hard.
Yeah, I find some of my best racing comes from teammates. Notice the little flashing lights coming through there, making sure that GTD car knows he is trying to come through. There is a serious race going on here. This is for P1 in the LMP2 class. So, a little bit of dirt kicked up there. Looks like Carter's decided, no, I'm going to hold on to this P1. I don't care for teammates. I really want to get out there, but gets held up by the GTD car. Once again, Ooms is able to get a little bit closer. Can he close it up again this time?
It looks a little far away this time around, coming down into Quebec. This, again, is the battle for the lead here in these dying stages. I think it's the only battle for the lead that we've got, because it's 15 seconds apart in GTD, 22 in GTP. But this is certainly giving us action, held up by the traffic of Schmoodlock there. And this is the best opportunity that we've seen, I think. Ooms has a fantastic chance to try and get aggressive into turn 8 if he chooses to do so. Kundinger likely to cover that inside. Will he hold right? Yes, he does, forcing Ooms to go the long way around, which can be done if you can hang tough around there. If he's got the grip, he does, and he takes the lead.
Yeah, beautifully done. Like I was saying before when we were watching that other class, you can pass on the inside or the outside. Either way is fine. You just have to be absolutely positive you know that driver you were up against. And of course, teammates, they know each other. Carter Kundinger doing a nice job holding on to that P2, trying to battle for that P1, but knew he wanted to make it to the end of the race.
So lead has now changed hands. Can Kundinger keep up with them and try to fight back as we look a little bit farther back at some of our GTPs? This, I believe, is the fight for second between Muir and Dornenberg. They have dropped Gibson like a bad habit, though.
Yeah, they've been able to open up that gap. I'm wondering if Gibson may have gotten a little bit of damage in some of that that earlier battling. But Gibson, he is right up there with it looks like an out-of-class car, or
yeah, no, that's an LMP2.
It's an out-of-class car. There we go. Sometimes with the prototypes, you got to look at the headlights or the taillights to tell, but looking at it from the side, sometimes it's like, wow, wait a minute, which one is that?
Yeah, the LMP2s and GTPs are very, very close in appearance and performance, too. But there's enough of a difference that sometimes you can make it out. In the meantime, we carry on following this battle for P2 here. Gibson now back by 3 seconds, so he's continuing to drop off of them around the outside. A lot of trust being placed in their fellow drivers out here in the slower classes.
Ooh, and another look, I think there may have been a little mirror-to-mirror contact on that one. Dornenberg trying to get around those GTD cars. Looked like it could have been, but everybody came out of that in one piece with no pieces missing.
Oh, and in front of them, they're approaching the battle between Ooms and Kundinger, which is suddenly closed up again. Look at this. He's right on top of him, and he's got a great run. He's going to take the inside. Now, last time, that's where he positioned his car, and he lost the lead. Is he going to be able to return the favor the same way, though? No, just not enough for him there.
Yeah, the thing about that one is getting the inside of the left out of those S's. If you have the inside there, if you have your nose ahead at that point, then you're going to be fine. But you can't be guaranteed of being there just because you took the outside of turn 8. It gets really tricky trying to go in that off line, off the rubber section of the track through turn 8. Oh, and a change in the lead in the GTPs. Sorry, P2 and GTP.
Oh, excuse me. It's my turn to be confused about the different types of cars. I thought that was a change of the lead. Yeah, and the LMP2s there, Dornenberg was going by Kundinger. They were both, again, another one of our composite cars. There's a lot of them out there with that green and black, and it was easy to get mixed up. Dornenberg still trying to give chase on Max Muir for P2. That spread apart the battle for the lead in the LMP2s a little bit. Ooms not quite as under pressure as he was before, but definitely pressure here for Max Muir.
Well, composite racing, I think it's where all the cool kids want to be, which is why we see so many of the cars out there with that composite racing livery. So Once again, though, we are watching where Mir and Dornenberg are just going at it hammer and tongs once again, coming up to this traffic. Are they going to be able to get around that GTD car? Pinching close on that outside. We saw that not go so well just a few laps back. So good job, everybody, holding on as they try to get around this LMP2. That's going to be a little bit more difficult.
Coming up into the Moss hairpin, less than 5 minutes to go now. I'm pretty sure at this stage they've long since given up hope of trying to fight for the win. They need Larson to have a massive wreck and be out of this race if they are going for the victory here. At this point, it is a battle for best of the rest. They go by the car of Austin Diltz, and had to be a late sneak inside there for Dornenberg to hold on to his rival. And now they go by Franco Margarella, who currently sits 11th out of the GTDs. And this traffic seems to be helping Max a little bit more than it is Dominic, because he's starting to pull away.
Yeah, Dominic having not the better end of the stick on that one when trying to go through the slower section with the traffic. You got to remember, everybody thinks, oh, well, just let me through. I'm the faster class. No, absolutely not. You have a race. I have a race. We all have a race. So just because they're a different class and they may be slower doesn't mean you can just bully your way through. So we're seeing there that these racers are being thoughtful and they are racing the right way. They're not just bullying their way through. So good job on Gibson and on Dornenberg and Mir working their way through the traffic there, and as well as that lap traffic just sticking to their line and being predictable.
I think it's gonna be that we just hit 4 laps left, but it's gonna be close. It will depend somewhat on the traffic, as Shane Larson crossed the line with about 3 minutes, 12 seconds left. Well, that's a perfect example right there. And you can never count on the race being yours, as we just saw as he spins. He's got that huge margin, but he comes out in front of Michael Marlowe, who thankfully does not run into him. But boy, he just about chucked it away.
Ooh, that was close. That 20-something second gap down to 17 seconds. I think he'll be okay in the next 4 laps. He could almost just kind of trundle along behind the GTD cars and still be okay and just get around them on the straights and not worry about it. He needs to not push too hard. If he backs off now, he will be able to just have maybe 3 laps here and just kind of let it come to him. You only need to go just fast enough to win. There's no need to push here.
And thankfully, that spin actually made it a lot easier. It is 2 laps to go now. Now that he crossed, he's got more traffic, though. Again, that seems like the terrors just never end when you race Autobahn at Mosport. He's going to go by all 3 of them eventually. And that wasn't a battle for position, although, that was actually just behind them. Young Park made contact with Morgan Smith just now. That was our second place driver in GTD that he went by in that. And another car is off.
That's Strapoli, I believe, went off there. And, we lost a rear wing from that. That's going to be Adam Satterfield.
Yeah, it looks like he's found the wall there coming out of Clayton, and he's going to have to take a tow. Meanwhile, white flag is now being held aloft for Shane Larson. Yes, it has been cut down by almost half here, but he is still plenty safe with 14 seconds. Just has to survive one more circuit.
I'm kind of surprised to see how much of that, how close he's getting to the grass on the entry of turn 1. See, notice there he's not really pushing super hard out to the outside. He doesn't need to. He still has a 14-second gap. We were just saying 17 seconds. He is just kind of letting it come to him. He does not need to go fast. This is practically a cool-down lap for him. He really does not need to push anything at all here. Just ride along and come up to the finish.
Just a couple more corners to go as he flies up the Andretti straight. Shane Larson, I need to check and see if he's had a win yet this season. But certainly is coming in showing that he is a force here in Canada as the 117 weaves through turn 8 into 9. Now it's through White's corner, the last and final right-hander. Your winner here at Mosport is Shane Larson.
Meanwhile, behind him, Max Muir and Dominic Durenberg. That has kind of petered out. I think something happened with Durenberg, caught up in traffic, not able to let it to finish that, but looks like Maximilian Muir going to take that P2.
And Jeffrey Ooms going to be our next leader across the line in the number 19. Carter Kundinger is about 2 seconds back. Some traffic holding him off, but he had enough of a buffer. It doesn't matter. Ooms will win in the end for another victory to his tally this season. And then last but not least, Ross Booth is for sure our winner because Young Park was between the overall leader and Ross.
Yeah, I was about to say Young Park actually took the checker already because the overall leader and winner, Shane Larson, was able to get past him. Ross Booth maybe should have put on the brakes a little bit. Now he just kind of gets a victory lap as he once again trundles his way around the track just for that last lap.
And I don't see Larson having started a race yet this season. Interesting stuff. Meanwhile, Ross Booth has definitely started a number of them, and he's going to finish this one with another win, once again striking back at Young Park's hopes of taking a championship. Well then, what a wild race that was. We expected it, although in terms of most sport races with Autobahn, that was one of the cleaner ones, if I'm frank. And it still gave us a thriller as we get celebrations from Larson. I think we're going to take a quick break while he burns it down on the front stretch. We'll come... we are going to go right to the results, actually. And it is, as we said, Shane Larson taking the win here today. Max Muir is going to finish in second with Dominic Dornenberg in third. Then it was Paul Gibson finishing P4 and Nathan Dowd finishing fifth. Kevin Binkley wound up P6, a lap down, and Eddie Layton in seventh. We don't see it on here. Smith, Darling, Wolf, Johnston, Michaelis, all were DNFs in that GTP category. I'll just go through the LMP2s. Jeffrey Ooms was P8 with was our winner, actually. Carter Kundinger was second. Robert Cast finished P3, and Vance Bow fourth. Then it was Mo Islam in P5 and Christopher Pies in 6. What about the GTDs here, Michael?
Well, GTDs finished up. We saw Ross Booth coming across the finish line and having that solo victory lap for that last lap. Behind him, Young Park and Paul Schmudlock finish out the podium. Meanwhile, in the AM class, Ed Eisenring takes the win in the 929 for the AM class of GTD. Behind him, Ryan Robertson in the pro class. Paul Slavonic, P2 in the AM class, ahead of Eric Starpoli. And then William Brennan finishes out the podium of our AM class. Behind him, Michael Ross and Franco Margarella, also AM class. Filling out more of the AM class is Austin Diltz, Shane Hunter, Chris Sherburne, Dale Green, Sean Reese, Adam Satterfield, who we saw right there at the end with that unfortunate incident, Sheldon Rosenbaum, Michael Marlowe, and Morgan Smith. And then a few laps back, we're going to have Kodrowski, Haley, and Schutt in that class.
And that takes us to our winner in the GTDs, Ross Booth, joining us. Ross, congratulations. It looks like you were able to run far enough away from Young Park that this one you didn't have to sweat quite as much. But I have a feeling, knowing Mosport, there was still some sweating involved in this race.
Yeah, the multi-class here is like no other track. I honestly think the speed that the prototypes catch a GT3 car at is insanely fast. So everyone's got to be on their toes.
You're trying to catch back up to Young Park here. You had a bit of a poor result back at Phillip Island. Do you think you have enough to try and shake this up-and-comer and beat him to the punch at the end of the season?
I think it's going to come down to bonus points like it did a couple years ago in GTE with Binkley and I. If we keep finishing 1-2, it's going to come down to 0 X's and pole positions, I think. So it's going to be really close all the way to the end.
Next time out, we're going to be heading off to Road Atlanta. It's another track where sometimes traffic can be a little bit hectic. How do you feel your chances are down in Georgia?
Pretty good. I like Road Atlanta. It's a good track. Similar to Mossport at spots. But I'm feeling confident if we keep putting it on pole, definitely helps stay out of trouble.
Well, congratulations. It was a well run race and a perfect opportunity to get some points on your rival.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Just want to shout out Shane Larson. It's I believe, his first race in the league, and heck of a way to make your debut. So congrats to him in GTP.
Indeed, that was Ross Booth, your winner in GTD, and he is right. I checked the stats. Michael's going to be talking to Shane Larson, who starts off his career in Autobahn with a win.
So, Sean, way to put your foot down as your opening salvo here in Autobahn. Nice job today.
Thank you very much. It's happy to be here, happy to join the league. I know it's only for the last few races of the season, but that's a pretty good way to kick it off for myself.
So you had about 25 seconds-ish between 20, 25, and then came a little bit of a surprise in turn 5. I don't know, B, C, somewhere around there, that little bit of a hook around. Did that kind of send a shiver through your spine?
For sure, yeah. I think it's definitely just a little communication error because, I mean, you can't do much when you're racing different class cars. But, just a little communication error. But everything was all right. Had some wheel damage, so I slid down the pace just to make sure I'd get to the line all right. But, yeah, it worked out, so we're good. Not going to dwell on it too much.
So is this going to be the kickoff of the era of Shane? I mean, we've got like Hamilton era, we've got Schumacher era. Is this going to be the Shane Larson era?
Man, those are some names to put me with.
Sure, no pressure at all.
We'll see. Only time will tell, right?
Yeah, that was a pretty decisive win, and I'm sure there are many people behind the scenes that you have to thank for being able to put together quite this type of really decisive win.
Yeah, for sure. That's so true. I've just been working my way up. I've been waiting for these GTPs forever. They're finally here, all 4 of them. And then started this year about 8 days ago, signed with Composite. And for those 8 days, it's been glorious. They've helped me out leaps and bounds. They're an amazing team. And just everything they do in the background is just amazing. So shout out to them and everyone. Thanks, Dom, for the opportunity to be on the team. And yeah.
Well, I think we said during the broadcast, Composite is where all the cool kids are. So it seems like you fit in quite well there. Nice job, and congratulations on the P1 today.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
That was Shane Larson. Meanwhile, Joe Peak has caught up with, I believe, Carter Kundinger, our P2 in the LMP2 class.
Indeed, Carter got beat by Ooms this time, but it was close. You're coming down to 10 minutes to go, and suddenly he's all over your rear end, Carter. That had to have been just nerve-wracking trying to beat him to the finish today.
It was tough, Joe. It really was, especially after the pit stop. Once I jumped him, I knew it was going to be a battle all the way to the end because we basically had almost identical pace the entire time, and it was just going to fall into who was going to get through traffic better. And I think, unfortunately, I got the short end of the stick tonight. But overall, I mean, even when we were right next to each other battling for that, for that lead position, I mean, that was some great battling. I hope you guys caught it on the broadcast because that was so much fun from the cockpit.
Yes, we definitely got plenty of battles on screen for this one. And the LMP2s put on a great show. It seemed like the traffic being so constant, did today really come down to who was able to manage that better, make the right decisions at the right time?
Oh yeah, I mean that's pretty much how Ooms finished first, I finished second, Robert finished third. Because the 3 of us are all being teammates, and we work together leading up to this race. We all have basically identical pace, right? And it literally just. I mean, this race basically just came down to, who who got the better end of the traffic, who managed it better. I definitely had some moments during the race where I was able to take advantage of some traffic that, Ooms may have had the bad luck on, especially when, I originally got that lead. And, there were times I pulled like a 2-second gap to Ooms. And then, all it took was one time where you're approaching a GT car coming into Moss. And I mean, it's just not smart to pass him into Moss. And you just have to sit there and wait. And here he is back on my tail. So, yeah, I mean, I think tonight was definitely, it really came down to traffic management. And yeah, I mean, just a little luck too, honestly. Pace is nice. You definitely need pace to win, but you also need a little bit of luck on your side. And I think tonight, I just, especially at the end of the race, just didn't have it.
Speaking of pace, or at least speed, I noticed Michael going over and taking a look at both of your cars and just asked me, did you guys have different wing settings?
Maybe. I don't know. I'll have to ask Ooms because I know I kind of went a different way with a setup than he did. But it honestly really didn't feel like it. But who knows? We may have. I don't know. There might be a little secrecy amongst the team that we're not sharing enough information with each other. But no, it's all good. I mean, yeah, like I said, we had almost identical pace, so it's. I don't really think our cars, comparing the two of us, was strong one place than another. But yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe he had more or less swing than me. Who knows?
Well, when I see you throw the second place hat over at Jeffrey, then I know it's boiled over. So, congratulations on the podium today, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you down in Georgia.
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks, Joe.
That was Carter Kundinger, finishing P2 in the LMP2s, which is going to wrap us up. So a big thank you to the Autobahn series for bringing us back for another season of coverage here on FTF.GG. Also, thanks to the team today, Michael and Zach. Make sure and tune in for the next race at Road Atlanta, January 22nd at 9 p.m. Eastern. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.